Tamil Nadu Producers Association has now said that they don't want audience reviews for at least 48 hours. They don't want theatres to allow audience reviews. Before that, there was a Kerala amicus curiae who gave a report to the Kerala High Court that social media influencers should not be allowed to review movies for at least 48 hours. For those not aware, there is this YouTube thing where YouTube channels will stand outside a movie theatre and Pooja is coming out of the theatre. They'll say, how is the movie?
Shove the mic in your face.
And how is the movie, Pooja?
Oh, it was horrible. I couldn't sit through it.
So Pooja is being very decent, but there was a man who came out of the theatre watching Surya's movie Kangua, and he said really nasty stuff about Surya and the movie. That in fact has become the biggest controversy, saying that this puts off people from going to the theatres. First thoughts, Nadika.
Isn't that one of the demands made that no personal remarks should be made against people involved in the movie?
Yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
For those, should you start with why you are the most relevant person to talk about this group?
I used to write reviews for films at one point of
I think
time.
that's too modest.
Yes, go on.
I have no idea how to think about this in any simple, complicated way. I can just sort of open my head and like pour whatever is there out. See, one thing I do think is that YouTube channels are doing this, pointing a mic at an audience way, because cable TV channels used to do that before then, right? YouTube is now where cable TV channels were some 20 years ago.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Not us.
Yeah, not E&M. So cable TV channels, and we have seen Sun TV doing that, right? Except the thing with a channel, because the airtime is expensive and all that, that it would happen once a week on a Sunday. With films releasing on a Friday or something, you had at least a couple of days for people to react to a film. Even though the review may have been done immediately, there was at least 3-4 days for a lead up to a film. And in fact, there was the Sun TV's great countdown show of the past. Can I say Sun TV? Okay, whatever. Yeah. So it used to say, okay, this film has just been released, so we will not take it into our review. We will not take it into our countdown. We will just say this film is released, you go see it, and then you come back and tell us how you. So there was some kind of editorial judgment taken on whether to review a film or not. But it was true that channels still put a mic and a camera into a person's face and ask them for opinions, and people would say whatever things. So I do think exercising some restraint on random sort of reviewing in front of a theatre on the day of release it can be avoided, because also what happens with films is that yes, you may not like a film immediately after you see it. You may not like the same film 24 hours after seeing it, but you still need that little bit of space to think about the film. I think this is the way I think about films. So asking somebody just immediately after coming, a lot of things could have gone wrong in the way somebody experienced the film. They may have switched off the AC for a minute or two, or the person may have wanted to go to the restroom to take a break, and all the stalls are full, and so therefore they're running to get home and relieve themselves. So you don't really know.
So while running out, they're like shitty movie.
Yeah, exactly, right. All of that can happen. So we don't know what is happening. So on the one hand, I see why producers are asking for that sort of gap between release and review. But to say that only some people are good to do this and some people are not allowed to do it.
So let's differentiate, Nadika. You are talking about normal public coming out and giving reviews. You are saying that maybe take a break, right?
I'm not saying take a break. I'm saying, do you have to do that immediately on the first day first show?
Okay. But what about the others? The problem is also regarding social media influencers. Now, how do you even define social media influencers?
I hate influencers. If you
hate the term or hate influencers?
The idea of influence and the influenza also I hate. They're called the influenza virus if you're not familiar with it.
No, I'm not.
Because they have spread so fast right now across the country. For instance, there are people now who've suddenly discovered that Chettinad is a place. And so
because of those travel vlogs going and showing the houses.
Now apparently Chettinad is now a hidden gem. Kannada Kathan is like never before.
Chikmagalur is a hidden gem, it seems.
Yeah, they went to Udupi and said it's a pristine, untouched tropical paradise.
JP Nagar in Bangalore where Pooja lives is a hidden gem.
Don't come.
So
okay, go on.
The influenza thing is a little bit of a problem. But again, I would exercise caution in saying you are not allowed to do it. Maybe have a moratorium on how you are going to do it. And that will have to happen over lots of discussions with other people and producers and makers and critiques and associations. But to say that only because this is also something that a few years ago Suhasini Maniratnam said, not everybody can review film. How is that? How is that true? Right? Anybody, if you want me to come and watch your film, you should allow me to critique a film.
Reviewing a piece of art is a great, amazing talent that you have to credit as good as the work of art itself. And so when I read an Anna Vittikad review, she's a good friend too, became a friend after I became an admirer of her. The first time I saw her at a Network of Women in Media conference, I just ran up to her and said, Anna, I'm a big fan. And she just looked at me and she just walked off. And she can't believe that she did that to me now.
Look at you, what a bad friend telling people about this.
She was like, everyone was like, the first time Anna Vittikad was in a Network of Women in Media conference, people were just all around her admiring her. And I'm like, what a talent to write review of a movie. Because Anna herself says this in some of her reviews, that it's a sum total of your life experiences that you bring in when you watch a movie and say. And like Dhanya narrated to me an incident where the Bahubali director was like very seriously offended when she took apart the Bahubali movie, right? And
yes. I had a personal experience. I'll come to that. Yes.
Right. So and the film industry really depends on these kind of reviews. It works in their favor, a good review and a bad review, a little bit of trashing, and they are the reason. In another Anna Vittikad conversation that I've been part of, I've heard her say this, that they're the reason why so many social media influencers, YouTube people throng film screenings and not serious reviewers get invited, but they create this kind of a hype that the first day opening that a movie receives. They have been, the fertile ground that they have grown on is these producers and these distribution agencies themselves. And now when it comes to bite their own back, they are offended.
So for the film Kangua, the producers of the film themselves agree that the first 10-15 odd minutes, when there was an open letter to people and all that, the first 10-15 odd minutes was not well done and there was too much noise and the sound mix was not great. So they've accepted the faults that the public have leveled against the film itself. After that, to say you can't come in and review is actually not a good way to go about it, right? Because we've seen a film like Tangalan, Paranjit Tangalan, which released a few months ago. Everybody did complain that the audio mix of Tangalan was not great. And the producers took note of it and redid the sound mix and re-released the film after that, after taking into it. The same producers of Kangua, the people who were backing Kangua also had, people watched their film Meiya Aragan, and there was complaints of it's too long and the theatrical run was too long. And so they took notice of it and I disagree with the editing post-release of a film. And I disagree with the fact that the film was long enough, because I don't think it was long. It is perfectly done film. Meiya Aragan hit every point I would like a film to hit me on. But they did and went and released a shorter cut of the film. So you're okay with accepting criticism if it's sort of in the nature that you want criticism to be, but you're not okay with if you think so then my question is, were there other considerations behind this sort of refusal to accept criticism?
Actually, Indian 2 is one of the movies mentioned. Yeah. And as somebody who was subjected to Indian 2, I can tell you that
my condolences.
You subjected yourself.
So
my condolences,
Yeah. I mean, no amount of, beautifying it, my favorite phraseology, putting lipstick on that pig, would make me like that movie. Thank God I didn't spend money. It was on OTT that I watched. But my entire point is this, right? It is in public domain. When art or whatever it is in public domain, everybody has a right to praise it, criticize it,
and you have to face it.
And you have to face it.
You have to eat, as they say, eat humble shit.
It's the film industry which encouraged the YouTubers and continues to do that. Yeah. So when it's convenient for them, they're happy with them. When it's inconvenient, they're like, stop these reviews, right? But I want to ask again, can we really differentiate a social media influencer? For example, the amicus curiae report in the Kerala High Court said, it took the names of Anupama Chopra and Bharadwaj Rangan and said that, look, these are actual film critics who are also part of association. I think there's a Film Critics Guild of India. They do good reviews, but there are these other people who do review carpet bombing, saying negative stuff. those reviews should have a moratorium. But can we really start differentiating people like that? Who is a film reviewer and who's not? Who's just a social media influencer?
I don't see, the thing is, somebody like a Bharatwaj Rangan, or also, I mean, at some point they would have started somewhere. With the Bharatwaj Rangan and Anupama Chopra, they started with like a Hindu or a Indian Express, right? What to say, that was also the point that we used to say of blogs and all that, right? The person who was writing a good review on a blog would then be hired by a digital media organization to do the same thing for them. So what is the entry criteria? You can't put bars on this. Of course, there'll be some varying qualities, but that also comes from experience. You can't expect someone who's been doing reviews for 20 years to match up to someone who's an enthusiast about film, right? There are a lot of people in social media who've went and studied film. Right, your YouTube channels are full of those people who went and studied film at a government film school or one of those private film schools, and who have not been able to crack it into the film industry, because the process of getting into the film industry is so their way of doing that is to like go through this way,
Crack a few films.
not just crack, but actually work on YouTube, do their own production to show that they can do production, right? And in the process, they like, because all of us come with our own ideologies that we've picked up and what we like and we not like. I think it's perfectly fine to say, whatever is a review, you take, and this is the whole old Tirukural thing, right? Which is like whoever says whatever, it's your ability to find the good thing or the truthful thing in what other people are saying. So why can't film producers do that?
No, this also, why should everybody aspire to be with a Hindu?
Exactly.
I want to be independent. I'll run a YouTube channel, say what I want.
Yeah.
I may not be a film critic. I may be a reviewer.
Yeah.
I have my place in the
And
society.
what is the difference between a reviewer and a critic is something nobody has defined yet.
Right. I mean, unless you talk about how great the cinematography is, how the lighting is and all of that.
That
you'll
doesn't
be
make you a
dismissed.
critic at
Right.
any point. That
Yeah,
doesn't make you a reviewer at any point. In my reviews, I write about film. I write about writing of the film. I write about the cinematography. I write about the direction. I write about production and all of those things. But that doesn't make me a critic yet. So who is a critic is a question that is still left to answer. How do you define a critic? Who is the good critic? Who is the bad critic? Who is a good reviewer? Who is a bad reviewer? We don't have definitions for this. We don't have working models for this.
Is there really any proof that these reviews cause losses? Because that is what these producers are continuously saying, that because of the review, people are not coming for the movie.
No, Dhanya, I think it's obvious. We all go for movie because word of mouth. I can remember when there was a phase when I used to watch movies, and then we went for this one stupid movie that had Mohanlal and Mammootty and Juhi Chawla.
Hari Krishnans, and people were queuing outside the theatre because Mohanlal and Mammootty, and then the North Indian sensation Juhi Chawla was, and we couldn't get tickets. And the next door was playing Summer in Bethlehem, which starred the next number 2 Suresh Gopi and Jairam And
Manju Warrier, of course, the most bankable actor. But then nobody was queuing up in front of that theatre, of course, because these two superstars. And then we went, and that was a great cinematic experience that we came back from. So the word of mouth really pushes people to queue up in front and theatres, and how long it lasts. There have been so many beautiful movies which haven't found the kind of audiences that it should have found, because there was no great reviews written about them in those initial phase when it was running in the theatre. And then it comes on an OTT platform and people watch it and say, oh, what a beautiful movie it was.
But I think the OTT platform, the deals that they have also depend on all these,
Yes.
the first few
There's a
days
lot
of
of
how
it,
it's
for
done.
sure.
So it has a dominance.
So do you think there's
effect.
really a grouse that people are not going to theatres because of the bad reviews?
See, the way I think about it is, of course, there's going to be some dampening of enthusiasm for the film if there's a immediate bad review, and especially if it's coming from all these channels. But the thing is, it's always happened, and if the film is able, there's always the make or break of a thing, right? If I can see a film despite all of that, and then it picks up. That's what we called a cult classic back in the day. Great films that we think of, like something like a Hey Ram or whatever.
Or Basha.
Dil Se.
No, I'm not going to say Basha.
Come on.
Dil Se.
Okay, Dil Se.
Who invited Nadika? He's not agreeing with anything that we are saying.
Okay, so
Basha is not
a
a
film
cult
like
film.
Hey Ram didn't do well at all in the theatres when it released, right? But then slowly it achieved what is called a cult classic status, right? So therefore you have other avenues that open for the film producer. So they may have lost money initially, but that's also probably because the film business is changing now. What used to run for 2 weeks is now that your multiplexes don't let run for more than 3 days. That's because there are a lot more films being produced. There's more competition. A film is not your only source of entertainment now. Even in a cineplex, you have some multiple things going on. You know, you have a playpen at some corner. There's some stand-up comedy on one screen. So it's problem with the business.
Losses. My point is, if it does make losses, isn't that the whole game?
That's the point.
Right?
You know, so you course correct and then you make a better film the next time.
Okay, so to end this conversation, though I always say that I don't know much about movies, I did not know that Hari Krishnan's and Summer in Bethlehem released the same time. But let's not forget, Summer in Bethlehem had that beautiful role played by Mohanlal. He comes as Niranjan for like 15 minutes, and I think he also
and the entire
walked away.
generation of people named their kids Niranjan after that.
Yeah, he walked away with. So see, my movie knowledge is very 1980s, 1990s. I also want to add, with all full responsibility here, that as a journalist and editor, I have always thought the movie industry is most corrupt, which is one reason why I've kept away a lot from the movie reporting, because there's so much of bribes given to people, and even if it's not bribe, there's so much of intimidation. For example, there are these simple things. Why we don't at the News Minute do interviews of actors before a movie comes out. We do only very few in which we make it very clear that if the movie is bad, we will still give a bad review, right? So if you go for any of these events where we're interviewing these people, they sort of think it's obligatory for you to then write a good review. And just because you mentioned about Anna Vatikard's article, this was called The Rape of Avantika, the character played by Tamanna in Bahubali. So she wrote about how that song with Prabhas and Tamanna was actually the rape of Avantika, and I think she won a Ramnath Goenka for that story. I had interviewed S.S. Rajamouli many years later at an event, and I asked him, how do you look back at the criticism that your movies were also problematic this way? He said that review really upset him, and he didn't take it well, basically. So a lot of these people don't take it well. That's why their egos are very hurt when some random guy on the road is like, yaar avan yedukku movie pandra, you know, so their egos are hurt.
The irony is that you're making a product for public consumption. You can't afford to be so thin-skinned, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah. So
that reminds me of a dear friend who we'll not name, but who made a great film called Arjun Reddy and all that. Who any comment on Twitter about the second film from that person, he would come online and like argue, and he had a entire bot army troll farm to say why your understanding of the film was wrong.
We'll not say his name, but it rhymes with manga.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But it is also true that for all of these people, it's their, it's a lot of money and resources and time that they put in. And it's also a lot of their vanity project too, right? These people are obsessed about their look, how they speak, how they are portrayed in the people's perception and all of that. So all of that is a terrible mix to give them honest review. So it's a very industry specific problem.
Yeah, and let's also not forget that there are dishonest reviews also. There must be some big superstar paying a YouTuber to thrash somebody else's movies.
There is definitely the range of, as in anything, you have a very good amateur reviewer and you have a very bad amateur reviewer, you have a very good credible reviewer and you have a very bad credible reviewer. You have this range anywhere. But I also think that you can't take these things too personally if you're a film producer, and you can't take these things personally if you're a public personality like a YouTube person. If some producer saying your reviews are kaka, then you have to bite it and you make a better review next time. Right? That's because you put yourself out there in the public. So I'm sure somebody's going to say, my presence on this podcast is very similar to that.
He's a kaka.
He's very kaka. Who knows?
I haven't heard the word kaka in a long time. That's what we tell kids, right?
Too grown up.
Yeah, kaka. Okay, so the kaka parts of the podcast are over.